Hi, I'm Simon Capon, and I use various psychological techniques to create fast and effective change in the thinking and behaviour patterns of people in sports. Now, this is the third video of the three-part training series. The training series is actually based around Chris. Chris, who's a friend of mine, who's a tennis player, and Chris is a very good practice player, but wasn't a particularly good match player. So what I did was to take the detailed components of his state when he practiced, or how he felt during practice, and bring them across so he now has that very same state when he plays matches. Now, what we discussed in the last video was what actually creates our state. What is it that actually makes our state? And we said that it was actually two things. One is physiology, which is what we looked at in the last video. And secondly, it's internal representation. And that's what we're going to be focusing on now. Now, internal representation is quite simply the pictures, sounds, self-talk, and the internal feelings that we have. All of those things actually create our internal representation. Now, before I actually did any work with Chris, I went along to see him in a tournament. And it was a second round match. I went to see him play, and he came off court and he'd lost the match, and he'd lost it quite badly, hadn't played particularly well and seemed quite down. And when he came off court, when I had my moment, I just asked him what was actually going on in his mind. So I'm asking for his internal representations, and the first thing he said to me was, he said, I have this picture that the court is really big and I'm very, very small. And the ball, it seems to be coming at me very, very quickly. He said also, I have this memory that keeps coming back of a conversation that was going on between two people, and this happened months earlier, where Chris was playing a match and two people were talking quite close to the court, and they were basically saying what a terrible match player Chris actually is. So he kept having this recall of this conversation. He also was talking to himself and calling himself an idiot. Well, he wasn't saying idiot, he said something completely different, but we won't go there now. But he called himself lots and lots of names, and the tone of voice he used was one of real aggression, particularly unpleasant. And also, he had a feeling in his stomach, which he described as just a very heavy feeling. So what I did was I left it for perhaps a week, and then I phoned Chris up again to see how he was, and he said the practice was going incredibly well. So I went along to see Chris in a practice game, and he came off court and he had this really beaming smile. He looked absolutely fantastic, really, really happy with himself. And I asked the same question, and I said to him, so tell me about your internal representations. What is actually going on in your mind at this moment? And he said it's like the court is really small and I'm really tall. He said to the extent where if I took a step to the left or maybe one to the right, it would feel that I could cover the whole width of the court. So that was an image he had. Secondly, he said when I talk to myself, it's telling myself that how talented and how gifted I am. And he said the tone of voice for that is one of real excitement and encouragement. And finally, he had a feeling across his shoulders of strength and power. So this was now a state that works for Chris. This is his new internal representation for all of his games. Now, a couple of days afterwards, Chris had a league match. And what happened was that just before he went on court, he started to get those old internal representations coming back. So what he had to do was quite simply was to change the pictures. So he changed the picture to the court being much smaller and him being very, very tall, so that he could just take maybe a pace to the left or one to the right, and he would cover the whole width of the court. He would then change this internal talk, this self-talk that he had, to a tone of real encouragement and excitement, and just tell himself how talented, how gifted he is. He would then have this feeling from his stomach, and literally just imagine it moving up through his chest and into his shoulders, so he can imagine this real strength and power that he now has. And that's a lot easier to do than you may think. And finally, if he started to recall this old conversation, then all he'd do is just to notice it and just let it go. And if it came back, just notice it and then just let it go. Now, Chris had to make sure that, just like his physiology, consciously had to do this over and over and over again. If Chris played a league match, a tournament, practice, basically if Chris was to pick up a racket, he would then make sure that he consciously had all of these internal representations. And just like his physiology, the more times he did it, the easier it became, and it just became a habit. He didn't have to think about it anymore, it just happened. Now this, matched with his new physiology, coupled together, made sure that Chris's state had completely changed. The result for Chris is quite simply that he started to win matches, and now he's won 2 tournaments. And for me, the most important thing is that, okay, Chris is winning, which is great, but he's also enjoying his matches as much, if not more, than he ever did when he practiced. Now, this does require commitment. But then anything in life that's worth having requires some commitment. I guarantee you this. Quite simply, that if you follow these instructions from the last 3 videos, your game will improve drastically. And as importantly, if not more importantly, is that you will basically be able to know that each and every time you play, when you're under pressure, you will play to that consistent level. So just imagine how important that's going to be. Now my email address is on at the end of this video, and I invite you all to do this. I don't care what standard you are, just follow the instructions and see your game improve and become more consistent. Now if you have any problems at all, if you have any questions, any comments, please get back to me. Just email me. I always make sure that I get back to every single email that I receive. There are more videos coming up in the near future, and I thank you very much for taking the time to watch these 3 videos. They will be of real help to you, no matter what your standard. So again, thank you very much. There will be some new videos coming on shortly, and keep watching the Simon Capon Sports Mind YouTube channel. Thank you very much.